Hi, Vincent. Your sound's
Hi,
not.
I just heard you eating. I'm not
Um,
good.
your audio
Okay,
is
hold
not
on,
good.
hold on, hold on.
Hi.
Better?
Much better.
Okay. I will also be eating in a second, and you'll have to take over the show for about 3-4 minutes while I eat that. But um, actually, I just started watching that thing with E. Michael Jones and Milo, and he was accusing E. Michael Jones of homosexuality. Is that what I got, or no?
No, E. Michael Jones was saying that Michael Voris, because he's gay, is a narcissist.
Michael Voris is gay?
Didn't you know that?
No, I didn't.
Well, this was years ago. He was going. Well, he was doing his usual thing, and then somebody said you were gay when you were at Catholic seminary, and then he said yes, it's true, but I'm not gay anymore, and then he was in. And then I remember he streamed with E. Michael Jones, and then E. Michael Jones started being quite mean about him. I thought he was being quite mean just because Michael Voris said, well, I was gay, but I'm not anymore, I'm not doing it, and E. Michael Jones seemed a little unforgiving about it. And anyway, this scandal then came up, and he was, this is, I think, the second time he streamed about it.
Well, yeah, that is a little bit nasty to not be forgiving of it. But why did Michael Voris quit? What happened? What scandal was going on?
Well, he suddenly resigned, and there was a video of him. There was a video of him saying he done something wrong, and he was being mysterious about it. And and there was this, I think, 15-minute video. In this blue room whose colours are well, quite gay actually, but it's a very nice blue colour. Anyway, he was in his room saying that he's sorry, and he was going to seek therapy, and hinted that he would be back after he cured himself, and then E. Michael Jones said, look at him, it's just a publicity stunt, and I knew this would happen, and stuff like that. And now, and I was just watching a bit of the second half, the part 2 of E. Michael Jones, saying this is what gay people are like. Gay men, they're narcissists, they only think about themselves, they can't help it. So that is as much as I know. And he was waving this book that he'd written about, gay men, and their characteristics. And well, I suppose I could play it when you're eating or something.
Yes, why don't you start playing it now?
Okay.
Just play it now.
Yeah. Okay, I haven't gone very far, so right. Then we can watch it together. Okay, now I found the place.
Hands out spears, producers charge the machine gun net. Dr. Jones, sorry. Not only entered the Federal Reserve for Jews, but after a certain period of time, that seemed to be the case.
Hello, welcome again to MJ Live. It's a Friday afternoon, a gloomy November day in South Bend, Indiana. And the big story of the week is the Michael Voris story. On Wednesday, November 22nd, I received a call from Milo Yiannopoulos. Milo wanted me to be the first to know that Michael Voris had been fired by the board of Church Militant TV. Later that day, the CM Church Militant TV board announced that Voris had been fired for breaching their, quote, morality clause. Without telling us what he did. This is typical of this incident, and it just gets worse as time goes on. At this point, the internet lit up, wanting a response, and Voris then did a video of himself in which he said things like, "The mission is always and remains the same, the salvation of souls. There have been failings in my personal behavior, not just now. I don't want to make excuses because there isn't any. There are some very ugly truths from my past that I, for 62 years, have avoided. There are things that I have to go away and address and work on. Again, they are horrible, ugly things. I'm not going to share them. Nobody else's business but mine." At this point, I think a pattern emerges here. It's nobody's business but his. Well, who said that? It turns out that you hurt a lot of people. Michael Voris hurt a lot of people during this period of time. And the period of time I'm talking about is the past 7 years, that period began with me writing this book, The Man Behind the Curtain, which is about Michael Voris and the homosexual vortex. I wrote this book when all of the rumors surfaced for the first time. These were specific rumors about Voris being a homosexual. His past caught up with him. He tried to suppress it. He tried to pretend that nobody was going to find out what he did, and it didn't work. And at that point, there was a crisis that was precipitated, and I was involved in that crisis. I was involved in trying to resolve that crisis because I had been working with Voris for a while. I mean, in a loose sort of association. I was friends with Mark Bramer, who gave Voris $250,000 to continue his apostolate and considered himself the owner of what was then called, what was it called before it was Church Militant? Real Catholic TV. Okay, when the whole thing blew up, a lot of people got together and tried to salvage this operation and tried to help Michael Voris. But Voris, you can read the details in this book. It's available at fidelitypress.org. I wrote it to basically not just to explain what happened, but to explain the bigger picture here. And part of the bigger picture here is the essence of homosexuality, the operating system of homosexuality, which was narcissism. The sense that these people are the center of the universe and as a result can't interact normally with normal people. This is the fundamental problem here. And after 7 years, it looks as if the problem has only gotten worse. This is all about Michael Voris. I'm trying to be fair to him. It's nobody else's business but mine. Well, Michael, it is a lot of people's business because you hurt a lot of people. There's a libel suit that is going down from the chancellor of the diocese in New Hampshire that is basically going to, I'm not a lawyer, but I've read the documents and I don't see any way Michael Voris can win this lawsuit. And this self-serving apologia is probably Voris's way of getting out of Church Militant while the getting is good and trying to hang the whole thing on them and get away and let other people pick up the pieces. He did go on to say, anyone who has been impacted in a negative way, you have my deepest heartfelt apologies. Nothing I can say to make it good. And then it goes right back to the whole, pious story of Michael Voris being the Catholic on the mission to save the Catholic Church. can't get specific about anything here. The people that he hurt, there are plenty of people that he hurt, and we can get into that at another point, but let's hear what he has to say here. Nothing touches the mission. Every one of us as a Catholic has a mission. One of the points I tried to make here in this book that I wrote 7 years ago was the effect that sin has on you, on everyone. Okay, now we're talking about an especially grievous sin here when we're talking about homosexuality. It's not like fornication. I mean, these are sins against the sixth commandment, but fornication is according to the natural order. And when you get into homosexuality, you're going over that edge into an act that is against God's order, against nature. And the problem here is that it has an especially deranging effect on the soul that Voris simply ignored. Voris went from being the guy who went on gay cruises and engaged in all of the depraved behavior that takes on that, to being a spokesman for the Catholic Church with nothing in between. Now, if you want to become a priest and you have homosexual inclinations, you cannot become a priest. That has nothing to do with acting on these homosexual inclinations. Voris was not only wanted to become a priest, he was in the seminary, and he was expelled from the seminary for homosexual behavior. He claimed that it was spiritual immaturity, but that was the code word for homosexual behavior at that time. At that point, he embarked upon a life of homosexual debauchery, and then he claims he saw the light and woke up one day and decided to become a crusader for the church. He had no right to arrogate this principle, this office, and appoint himself the church crusader. He refers to his church militant thing as an apostolate. An apostolate. Whose idea was this? Who said that church militant was an apostolate? Apostolate comes from the word apostle. The apostles, the bishops now are the successors of the apostles. So if you're talking about an apostolate, I think the first place you should look is to the bishops. And the first thing you find out about church militant is that Voris was a notorious bishop basher. All of the animosity that he felt after getting expelled from the seminary, knowing full well that there were other people in the seminary who were just as homosexual as he was, who did not get expelled, all of that animosity got directed against the bishops of the Catholic Church. And it turned into this personal kind of vendetta that Voris was leading. How is that an apostolate? If you read this book, you'll find out that the church fathers had lots to say about the role of bishops and the fact that you really should not criticize bishops. Now, I know that there are plenty of people who feel differently out there, and they were the people that basically were the prime audience for Michael Voris. He pandered to that crowd. They threw a lot of money at them. Even after this comes out, they're still throwing money at him. They all ignored what I had to say in this book. Maybe they should have thought it over again. Maybe Michael Voris should have thought over what I said back then. As a matter of fact, I'm going to make a wild claim here. I think that's exactly what this little public confession is about, at least partially. Let's go to the clip right around 6 minutes.
Ugliness surfacing inside. Have not liked it for a number of times. In my head, I had written my resignation letter already a handful of times this year. So I am, and like I said, in one sense, kind of relieved. I need to conquer these demons. And I'm not talking about just act out demons. That's a symptom.
Wait,
It's
let's
horrible.
stop. Let's
It's
stop
awful.
here for a
Simple.
second. Let's stop here for a second. I need to conquer these demons. What did I say about homosexuality and narcissism from the very beginning? It's all in this book. The details are all in this book. The homosexual is always involved in some type of psychic drama, placing himself at the center of the universe. This is not about you and your demons, Michael. This is about you and all the people you damaged by claiming that you were some type of apostle running an apostolate. That's what this should be about, and it's not. We never get any type of concrete statement about, I'm sorry that I hurt Mr. So-and-so. I'm sorry that I did this. I retract what I said about that man after I ruined his reputation. None of that. None of that is here. It's all me. I got to conquer my demons. All right, continue.
Downplaying it at all. What I'm saying is the underlying cause of it has been too ugly for me to look at. It involves an awful lot of, in one sense for me, like spiritual terror. And I've not wanted to go near it because of So that said, I have spent the last couple of days or so, few days, looking for and talking to people who I believe can help me face this and professionally. So I am going to, I don't want to use the word retreat, but I'm going to step away from the camera and I'm going to go concentrate on that.
Okay. Now, I've been talking to people who can help me face this. People have been we tried to help you face this 7 years ago, Michael. I mean, you had a spiritual advisor at that point, and then you turned on him because of, and tried to destroy him. You did everything within your power to destroy this man because of the spiritual advice he was giving you. But he wasn't the only guy. Mark Bramer and I offered you a deal at this point. Okay? And it's exactly the deal that you're now trying to get someone else to offer you. I'm going to step away from the camera. Well, 7 years ago, that was the deal. I was going to step in your place in front of the camera, and you were going to step behind the camera, and we were going to collaborate because you had this expertise in this area, which I did not have and do not have. And I thought, well, maybe we could work together. Well, it didn't work out, and you can't argue with existence. The fact that it didn't work out is God's plan, and God's plan is more powerful than any plan that we can come up with. Man proposes and God disposes. And so you reneged on that agreement. You first of all agreed to it, and then over that weekend, you got bad advice, and then you decided to go on your own. And you did exactly what you're doing now 7 years ago, and everybody fell for it back then. And you got money, and you kept going, and you did more damage in those 7 years than you had done before. And now it's still all about you, isn't it? Isn't it, Michael? You and your demons, and you're going to have to go, and someone is going to have to take care of you, and you're going to have therapy and all that type of stuff. When are you going to apologize to the people you hurt? When is that going to happen? When are you going to say, what I said about Father X is not true? I defamed that man, and I apologize for doing that. You cannot, how can you expect any type of forgiveness unless you actually tell us what you did? Now, I'm not a priest. You're not going to me in confession. But what you did was a public act that demands public restitution. You need to publicly say to these people, I lied about you. I deliberately went after you. I tried to destroy your reputation. I tried to get you fired from your job. and so on down the line. Okay? And it's none of that here. It's all about you. It's all about you and your apostolate. And then by the end of this embarrassing narcissistic self-promotion, including tears. I mean, he just got all choked up thinking about himself. Like, poor me. Poor me. I'm in such a bad, I'm going to start crying because of poor me. This is, and then he says, I am out of the apostolate, so that there will be a very clear separation here. First of all, Michael, it is no apostolate. That's what you call it. It was a racket. It was a money racket, and it was a slander racket. It's not an apostolate. But the staff continues, deserves your continuing support. They are obviously hurt by this. Their work can't be diminished because their legal fare. Well, of course it's diminished because their leader fare. What do you think a leader is? He's the guy who leads the troops, and you led them into an ambush here. The mission can go away. It just can't. It's way too important. Had I not the love and support of those around me who are exhibiting that because of their Catholic faith, had I not the church to be there, I'm not sure what would have happened. And then he tears up again. Grace builds on nature, my truths. And then he gets all teary again. From my deep, deep, deep past are deeply damaged, and those need fixing and addressing. Okay, so it's still all about you. I think I know what he's talking about. And I think he's also talking about something that I mentioned in this book, okay, which he attacked me for mentioning. I ran into Michael Voris, what was it, a couple of years ago. I mean, it was after this happened. It was at the Call to Holiness, 25th anniversary celebration. I was one of the speakers to the Call of Holiness, which was in 1996 in Detroit. He showed up with his entourage. I went over to try and talk to him. He didn't want to talk to me. Okay, I can understand that. You don't want to talk to me. I went back and sat down, and then he comes over behind me. I'm sitting at the table there, and he says, "If I weren't a gentleman, I'd deck you." Now, I don't know which claim is more preposterous, that Voris is a gentleman or that he can deck me. But it didn't give me any indication that he was thinking about what I had said. Now he's thinking about what I said. Now he would love to have the offer that Mark Bramer and I offered him way back when, but nobody's making the offer. But that doesn't mean he's not planning a comeback. This is the whole end of this thing here is Voris is going to, he's going to come back. He's just so sorry. He's going to go into therapy. He's going to have someone hold his hand, and that will heal him, and he'll deal with all his demons, and then he's going to come back. And he's going to come back. And if he comes back, I'm going to tell you he will do exactly the same thing he did for the first two times. Because character is destiny. Now, oh man, that light up when I put that on the internet. Don't you believe in forgiveness? Of course I believe in forgiveness. My question to you, don't you believe in penance? If the macho Catholics out there had read St. John Chrysostom, they'd know that he says, look, the sin is the arrow. You can remove the arrow, but the wound remains. And I'm telling you, the wound that is known as homosexuality goes so deep and it deranges the soul so much that you are not fit. You, being a homosexual, are not fit for the priesthood of the Catholic Church. And if you try to disguise that and turn that into an apostolate where you're now a successor of the bishops, it's even worse. When you appoint yourself to an office that you have no right to take. Now, I said this before, and they said, shame on you, you're being judgmental. And I said, you wait. Character is destiny. This guy is destined for a fall because he can't get away from that homosexual narcissism. To think that you can go like that, even though God can forgive your sins, and you can get over your bad habits like that, is called cheap grace. And it doesn't work that way. You want to know a good example of cheap grace? Read Huckleberry Finn. And Pap was an absolutely no good son of a bitch. But the judge thought he could save him, and Pap said, "What? Yeah, I'm saved now." This is our Protestant brothers. They do this all the time. They get saved, and it's called cheap grace because they think they can go right to heaven after living a life of sin, and they end up like, I can tell you lots of them. Remember Jimmy Swaggart? He tried tears too. He had more tears than Michael Voris, but it's the same type of story. This is the same playbook. You can go all the way back to Martin Luther, and what you have is the same old story of these guys who can't control their sexual passion and then use cheap grace to cover it up, because Martin Luther said grace covers sin the way snow covers shit. That's not Catholic teaching. Catholic teaching is that you can be rehabilitated, but it takes effort on your part to get over the wound. That's called penance. And it takes discipline, and it takes time. And doing it in 5 minutes is not going to work. You're going to end up worse off than you were before. And that's precisely what happened to Michael Voris. First time around. And then God gave him a chance. We made him an offer, and he said, screw you, I'm going to do it. And now we're the second time around. And believe it or not, there are people who still react to the same way, exactly the way they reacted the first time around. I love you. This is the comm box. With the same holy love Jesus and Mama Mary has for you. And I do feel your pain, and I have my tears for you, shed because of that holy love have for you. Courage, my brother, courage be yours, I pray. Be triumphant like St. Mary Magdalene at the foot of the cross. This is already after he screwed up. This is the second time you screwed up, fella. I mean, even in Huck Finn, the judge didn't give Pap a second chance, didn't put him in that bed a second time so he could fall off the roof dead drunk. Anyway, everyone's ignoring this. This is the lesson of the comm box. That was one example. A significant number of responders to the comm box told Voris that he had brought them to the Catholic faith. 10:38 on the morning of November 22nd, 2023, Sheldon Jessup tweeted that your videos helped me become a Catholic. God bless you. We all have demons we fight. Some are more public than others. You were brave enough to begin that journey. May Our Lady keep you. Okay, that's great. He brought someone to the Catholic faith. Which Catholic faith are we talking about here? For some of the people, Voris brought into the church, disillusionment was the immediate response to his mea culpa. On November 21st, Philip McNichol tweeted, I'm stunned. I'm confused. I'm in disbelief. I need answers. I listened to this man as direction for my moral life, and he is telling me he is a moral disaster. Oh, well, maybe that's part of what's going on here. And maybe these people, maybe this guy is the only guy who experienced that way. So it's great that you brought everyone to the Catholic Church, or some people to the Catholic Church. But which Catholic Church did you bring them to? Your Catholic Church? When Voris called the Catholic Church that I belong to, he called it the Church of Nice. He was talking about the Catholic Church founded by Jesus Christ, whose priest, according to Voris, soft-pedaled the hard sayings of the gospel. As the alternative to the Church of Nice, Voris proposed his own peculiar church, the Church of Nasty, according to which bishops existed to be bashed. Slander was its lingua franca. All of the backbiting bitchiness and calumny that Voris learned from the time he spent in the homosexual demimonde now got repurposed as zealous defense of the faith. Anyone who questioned Voris's zeal deserved everything he got. Anyone who questioned Voris's leather bar version of Catholicism, this was, all you had to do was watch a few. This is S&M Catholicism. That's the church that Voris created. That's the church that poor guy up that I just mentioned, that's the church he joined. Anyone who questioned Voris's Catholicism deserved to be destroyed. That was, and also, I'm literally talking about deserve to be destroyed, not just in your terms of your reputation being destroyed, but how about your ability to earn a livelihood? You mess with Voris and he will go after you and he will destroy you. Oh, wait a minute. Is that an exaggeration? Okay. I don't want to be guilty of any exaggeration here. Okay. So what happened after Voris then, after he poured out his heart, cried crocodile tears about how he was suffering, and then kept the door open for coming back for a third time to all these gullible people who don't understand the workings of cheap grace? Okay? What happened is that Christine Niles jumped into the story. Christine Niles, for those of you who know the operation, was his right-hand man, and she jumped ship a week before Michael Voris did. I hate to use the analogy, but it seems appropriate. The rats always leave a sinking ship, and Church Militant is nothing if not a sinking ship. So she told us that she, quote, poured my heart out into that apostolate. She's using the same word, apostolate. This is known as folie à deux in French. Niles announced, if you are hoping that I will divulge private details about this breach of morality clause, that's not happening. I will respect Michael Voris's privacy. And then she announced, I'm not in the business of detraction. Well, for once, someone in his apostolate is telling the truth. Christine Niles is not into detraction. She's into slander. And slander is different than detraction. Detraction is telling the hidden truth of another, revealing the hidden truth of another for no good reason. Slander means lying. And this is precisely what Christine Niles did when she went to the Marine Corps and tried to get Mike Parrott a dishonorable discharge. Now, this is not journalism. This is not an apostolate. This is, what should I say, psychological warfare? No, it's not that. I'm at a loss for words to say. This is really awful. When you go after a guy who has 7 kids and you just try to destroy his livelihood because you don't like what he said. This is the type of people we're dealing with here. And what's the reaction? How about John Henry Weston? LifeSite News. We have to remember who Michael Voris is. He brought so many people to the church by his fidelity. What? Fidelity? What the only plausible explanation that I can draw from the fact that Voris was fired for violating his morality clause is that he fell off the wagon and engaged in homosexual activity again. I have no way of knowing that, but it seems to me it's the only plausible explanation. No one else is saying anything. So what is this fidelity that he's talking about? His way of expressing the truths of the faith in a vigorous, beautiful way that caused countless conversions. I've already dealt with this. They converted to the Church of Nasty. And now what are they going to do now that their hero is gone? Disillusionment? I guess I was wrong. I guess I was wrong in coming to the Catholic faith. I guess it was what Voris said. It was just this nasty, vindictive attack on anybody who disagreed with him. Well, We can't pile on. Let's pray for our brother who is obviously suffering and reach out to him in love. He is a man who has done a lot for the Lord. Let's pray and let's not be taken in. There's going to be a lot of accusations. There's going to be an attempt to paint LifeSite and Taylor Marshall and Michael Matt with a kind of brush that says, look, let's not go there. Well, all right, wait. So this is self-serving too. They're afraid of being tarred by the same brush. Okay, I think I get that now. All right. That then found its way into the eponymous news, the eponymous flower, which talked about the slimy film of faux caritas. Great phrase there. I wish I had thought of that myself. Anyway, this came out with regard to not Michael Voris, but the people who reacted to Michael Voris. That's what they're talking about here. One of them was Janet Smith. I don't know whether you remember the incident between me and Janet Smith. Janet Smith and I go way back to the 1980s. I was to be on Patrick Coffin's Hope is Fuel podcast conference, and the thug Mark Shea leaned on everybody to get me canceled, get me thrown under the bus. And Janet stood up and says, no, I'm not going to do that. I know Mike Jones. I used to go to his house. His wife's a great cook, blah, blah, blah. And then he leaned on her again, and she folded like a cheap suit. One of the reactions, this is eponymous flower, one of the reactions from the traitorous neocon, this is not me, that's whoever it is at eponymous. Janet E. Smith is presently cautioning people to be nice, if not actually Christian. Did she extend this kind of charity to E. Michael Jones when she called Jones an anti-Semite? No. Because the other reason that Voris got a bye on, this is the second time around, is because all of these Catholics have not only internalized the idea of cheap grace, which is a Protestant idea, they've internalized the dominant culture's view of what homosexuality is. Hey, it's just an alternative lifestyle. No, it's not just an alternative lifestyle. It has a deeply deranging effect on the human soul that disqualifies the homosexual from becoming a priest and certainly from becoming a spokesman for the Catholic Church without any type of episcopal control. One wonders, to come back to this, if there's another allegiance Smith is loyal to beyond her appearance of Catholicism. It's this kind of reveal that people often miss and others will attempt to glaze over with a, as I said, slimy film of faux caritas. Budgie Niles shows the devilish hoof beneath a tight-fitting silk dress. For her part, when Voris and Christine Niles, like the Marxist gangsters that they are, doxed Mike Parrott to the Marine Corps. Niles told military authorities that she thought he was insufficiently committed to the LGBTQ, whatever they are, values. Is that the true allegiance that binds these bad actors together and lays them bare to the possibility of blackmail and coercion? Does Janet E. Smith now recall how Voris and Niles gloated when they got Parrott a less than honorable discharge from the Marine Corps? Questions that still need to be answered. That's my rant. Let's hear what you have to say.
Okay, big monologue there. So we're going to try to be quick about this so we can get your questions in. Hello, voice you're hearing, Mike Bajakis, Dr. Jones' assistant. For those who don't know, this is the call-in section of the program, and it is in our Telegram. And wherever you're looking, a link is going to be in the description. It'll send you right to our Telegram. In Telegram, I will call on those who raise their hand, and then later in the stream, we'll read off.
You want to talk about that, Claire? Claire?
Yes, sorry, I didn't know. I was answering you, but I was muted.
Oh my god. I mean, that was
Dramatic.
well, yeah, he was being dramatic, and I think that gay men just shouldn't be in that environment, and the fact.
Oh, you agree with E. Michael Jones then?
Well, no, it's just like, yes, gay men just shouldn't be in Christian or religious, or not at least that type of religious environment. They shouldn't be in Abrahamic environments, and they shouldn't even try to get involved. And they should know better, because me, Michael Jones, proves that heterosexuals still don't even really still trust them, and still view them as secondary and second class. And it doesn't matter how high you get in the Christian world. If you were a practicing homosexual at what point of your life, you're never going to be viewed as equal. So, like, don't even give these people your time. You'll never be on par with them, and they're going to view you that stupid fucking book, not stupid, but eye-opening book, The Pink Swastika, being like, well, if you don't have sex with people, then you can tutor our children. They want, like, gay people to be these, like, little church pets and monks and, like, scholars and, like, these celibate, pathetic, sociopathetic, closeted, sexless robots that, take care of their children at Sunday school. And, you're never, even if you're a celibate homosexual, you're still never going to be viewed as anything. So what are you doing inside that church? Homosexuals need to stop giving their their talents to these churches. They don't want you anyway.
Well, I guess you can't get the staff these days, but I think E. Michael Jones was having a problem with Michael Voris's behaviour about, not agreeing to that arrangement, I guess giving E. Michael Jones a limelight.
Because that came off like, oh, you didn't put me center stage in your organization, so screw you, you narcissist. Like, that was very heterosexual. Like, you're a gay narcissist because you didn't make me center stage in your organization and let me take over.
Well, because he knew there would be a problem later, which I guess he was correct about. But, okay, I have actually been in the same room as Michael Voris when he came to London, and what struck me about how his fans behaved was that it's like they think they're meeting the Pope. So I came to, he gave a talk, and afterwards, people wanted to meet him, and they queued up to meet him like you would the Pope. I thought they were going to kiss his ring or something, and he obviously loved it. And it's not like, usually, celebrities who are not full of themselves would just sort of mingle with the crowd, and that people kind of, gather around them rather than queue up and, as if there was some kind of royalty. So obviously Michael Voris had an ego problem. But I in a way I can understand, because he's quite a performer, and church militant wouldn't be church militant without him, looking very angry and Catholic. But he's the one with the media training and all that.
All that. Yeah, shame on him. Shame on him for using his gay talents to advance Catholicism. And you get what he got what he deserved, in that he couldn't hide his, keep his homosexuality in his pants forever. And obviously it got out of his pants, and he got thrown out. And, now he's just going to be a disgrace for the rest of his life. And, now he has no gay friends. I hope that he goes and finds a boyfriend, to be honest with you, and just says, fuck this. Go. Yeah,
I would have thought at his age, 62, he would have found a boyfriend by now. But the other thing I was thinking, it's just gone out of my mind. Sorry, carry on talking.
No, yeah, go. I hope he goes and finds a boyfriend and he turns against this. And I mean, this is what you deserve if you get involved with this. And you
But oh
deserve.
yes,
You
it's come back
deserve.
to me.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, if I were gay and Catholic, guess where I would be? What I would be joining? I mean, it's a perfect place to be if you're gay and Catholic and you think you'd like to try at becoming Pope. I'm sure you would go to the nearest Catholic seminary. Wouldn't you, Vincent? Because you think I can screw around at Catholic seminary and no one will rat on me, because they would be ratting on themselves if they ratted on me. And I'm sure Catholic seminary is full of gay men,
Yes, it
thinking
is.
they can get away with screwing around with other like-minded gay men.
Many Catholics aren't pleased when they hear their child wants to be a priest because that means they're gay.
Yeah.
You
But I mean,
know?
it's a problem of the Catholic Church, and it's not. It's been like that for centuries. I mean, did you know that in the Vatican, the age of consent was it 9 or something like that? I'll look it up, and it was only changed last century, but it was ridiculously low. So they've been doing that sort of thing, you know.
Well,
Until
I mean,
only
it's
fairly
just
recently.
let it be a warning to other gay men that if you want to play with this kind of fire, then now where is he gonna go? You know what I mean? He kind of built his whole life on this kind of stuff. I didn't know he had been a homosexual, but yeah, I mean, I think Christians who accept homosexuals into their midst are dumb, and I think that, well, I mean, if they're not practicing, but even then, you still are stupid because there is something in the homosexual psyche that is going to always be at odds with the Abrahamic religions, and just having them, even when they're not practicing, like he said, there's something more going on than just sex. I mean, just because you're not a practicing homosexual doesn't mean you're not a homosexual, and doesn't mean that you don't act like a homosexual, and doesn't mean like you don't have homosexual inclinations and things like that. Of course you do, and that's just dangerous to have in an Abrahamic environment.
Well, but it's the only. Well, you shouldn't have it in any religion, but I'm sure it happens a lot in Buddhist monasteries too. And actually, I spoke to a Greek man, and who said there was a lot of it going on at the Orthodox monastery when he was there for a bit. I mean, there was a lot of gay behavior.
Look, it happens in all these homophobic religious institutions. It happens in all of them. It seems the more homophobic they are, the more likely they are to be closeted homosexuals. And that's because they're just obsessed. These people who are obsessed with homosexuality are people who wish they could have sex and can't. And so they do the next best thing and they talk about it. You know what I mean? They do the next best thing and they talk about it. And, does E. Michael Jones have children or a wife?
He does have a wife. Yes, he does have children. I don't know how many exactly. I'd just like to mention that the age of consent in the Vatican City was 12 and was only raised to 18 in 2013. In case anybody was interested. So yeah, the age of consent was 12 in the Vatican. But we also know that the age of consent in Delaware was 7 in the 1880s, I think. So I'm saying recreational sex is not an exclusively Catholic activity, but I mean, is there something about being gay that makes them more obsessed about themselves? I don't know. I know people who are in love are very self-obsessed, but is there something about gay people who, I don't
Well,
know.
it's, it is that we're more intelligent and more creative, and what heterosexuals have to say is boring and stupid, and so we don't want to actually like listen to you or have anything. We don't like when you're the center of attention because it's dull and it's dumb and it's incorrect and it's deleterious and useless. And so, like, well, yes, of course, and like try to take over the show. You know what I mean? Bring it up. All we want it on our standards. We don't want to live in your standards. That's why we're so unhappy because we live at your low level and everything is dumb and everything. Pure heterosexuality is marked by stupidity, cruelty, uselessness.
Can you give an example of this?
Well, you wouldn't understand as a heterosexual. You would understand how low heterosexuals are. To you live in a pigsty and you're fine with it.
Well, I mean, could you give a more specific example other than
No, I mean,
like,
just the homosexual is a little bit too intelligent. Like, we don't feel happy in a room full of heterosexuals who are talking about heterosexual commonalities and things like that. It's just not, benign or not banal or, just kind of like mediocre. Heterosexuals are mediocre and, they like it mediocre and they don't, and if someone is a talented homosexual, that means they're trying to take over the room. No, they're just an eloquent speaker, and you know what? They have something meaningful to say, and it's interesting, and people like listening to it. And yeah, they do take the show. Michael Jones is just jealous. He's a curmudgeon, and and he's he's a curmudgeon, and he's not. Look how he dresses, and very muted, and he's grumpy, and no, he can't steal a stage. And I was trying to look him up. I don't know if he's anything like who's the Björkness. I don't know
oh,
how.
Christopher Van Bierkness or something? Yeah,
I don't know how reliable Michael Jones is when it comes to his scholarship. I don't know, like, does he get into conspiracy theory? Like, I know he does talk about the Jews. I was looking up. He's on the ADL, and basically. He's saying, well, he takes the basic right-wing anti-Semitic trope that Jews are trying to undermine Catholic values in America and family values in America. And, he just takes that whole shtick.
I mean, I quite like him. He's very energetic. I've spoken to him 3 times, and I mean, I know he deliberately blinds himself to certain things. He deliberately conflates Jews into one monolithic group. He doesn't appear to understand that Catholicism was meant to fail, and it was inevitable that Protestantism would wish to reject papal authority. And but anyway, I mean, apart from that, I do quite like him because he's energetic and he's, says things quite clearly, and he does make, quite interesting points from time to time. But yes, I mean, he is an anti-Semite who, I mean, okay, his position on race is to say, well, nobody ever thought about being white until black people came along, and he'd say things like, well, I'm Irish and I'm German, does that mean I'm white, or something silly like that, which I think is meant to show that he's not racist, even if he's anti-Semitic.
Well, I mean, yeah, maybe he's trying to say he's not racist, but I mean, yeah, but it's just, I'm sure he wouldn't be interested in talking about the Noahide laws all that much because what is he going to say about them? They're bad. He's going to say, well, this sounds like a good idea. This is in line with our morals. You know what I mean? I mean, he's not going to be like, oh my God, are you serious? He's just going to want to not talk about it and, put it under the rug and just say that Jews aren't doing that. Jews are liberals. Jews want to spread porn. You know what I mean? Like, where Jews who are spreading porn aren't really Jews. They're fucking half-breed Gentiles. It's just that he doesn't want to know that Jews are spreading the Noahide laws. That doesn't help his case.
Yeah, or he wouldn't. He would reject the whole idea, which a lot of anti-Semites do, both Muslim and Christian. saying that they have no authority over us. It's, it's only the Talmud, it's not the Torah, and therefore something Jews made up and, whose authority they were going to reject.
I know, but it's not going to be something that he's going to say is a problem. It's not something, he's not like, okay, he wouldn't, Michael Voris was involved with the no hide laws, and what's his name, that we talk about all the time, Arthur Goldberg. And, but, it's just, it doesn't help his cause. And he just is probably one of these people that wants everyone to think that every single leftist Jew is a leftist Jew that's, involved in the porn industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess, we all kind of have certain blind spots. I mean, this whole, Hamas-Israel war thing. I mean, I'm just not interested. Well, apparently you're supposed to, keep expressing shock and horror and disgust, and I just can't bring myself to even show this, what people want me to see, shock and horror and disgust, children. And I know it's terrible of me, but I just find the whole thing like, well, people get killed in wars. Why are you kind of forcing me to virtue signal like you?
Yeah, I know, and that was disgusting on Four's channel, that Swedish guy, and they were basically making fun of me, and they were saying, well, the reason you won't choose a side is because you're gay, and so you're non-committal, and like, that's so disgusting, to like, that, yeah, that is heterosexual. Like, you have to choose a side. Doesn't matter if they're both shit. You have to, and your choice can't be let them kill each other, and that's my choice. It's like, no, why do I have to get in bed with one of these people? And it's not even my war. It's not even on my land. It doesn't, it doesn't involve me. And it involves two other religions that I have nothing to do with. Why would I get involved in that? I mean, that is true. It's very heterosexual to go get involved on someone's side in a scumbag fight. I mean, if you look, that's where bar fights break out. Two drunken derelicts start punching at each other, and then everyone takes a side and starts punching each other. I mean, yeah, that is very heterosexual.
I suppose they do it to know whether you hate Jews more or you hate Muslims more, so they can identify you. It's a kind of friend or foe demand, isn't it? It's like,
Yeah,
I don't know what to think of you until you tell us.
Yeah, I mean, I'm against both of them, but when Jews or Muslims are involved these days, that's no longer a right answer. You have to choose a side, and I'm saying fuck you. But all of these people in the West are, they're falling for it, and they're just dumb. And if you side with Palestine, you're dumb. I mean, I'm not with Israel. I don't side with Israel. Just stop funding them both and let them kill each other with sticks and stones.
Well, I'm saying, I was actually saying that Hamas is a necessary milestone for to make the point about Jews living under Sharia. And if Jews choose to live under Sharia, then the rest of the West would follow.
But they're not going to do that, Claire. That's a pipe dream. I mean, they're just not doing that. They would rather live in secular democracy than Sharia.
Yes, I know, but because, the whole, the past 70 years has been about liberal democracy being in Israel. I know that British politicians always say Israel is wonderful because it's the only liberal democracy in the Middle East and we should be proud, etc., etc. But I think a lot of people are getting tired of that narrative and they don't want to be a liberal democracy themselves. I mean, forget about the Jews. They don't believe in it anymore because of the stolen election. And anyway, so that I think is also part of the problem of people feeling less and less respect for liberal democracy. And Jews are a kind of catalyst, I think. Because, if they change, then the whole world will. It's like they won't be able to stop themselves from following suit. I mean that's why the State Department funds these demonstrations against the reform of the Supreme Court, because it would mean, kicking out the liberals, and that would never do, and it's sort of tied up in with American pride in their liberal democracy. So in a way, it's not even the Jews, because most Orthodox Jews, the religious Jews, would think, oh, that's fine living under Sharia. It'd be, easier for us, because then we wouldn't be
most
fighting against the
Orthodox
secular
Jews don't want-
Jews.
They don't want, most Orthodox Jews would rather maintain their own religion within secular Israel than.
Well, they can't do it because they keep
they are.
complaining about the secular Jews, saying, oh,
No.
for Passover, you can bring chametz into hospital, and they're complaining about these secular Jews who hate religion and want to abolish it. I listened to Rabbi Mizrahi, who's ultra-Orthodox, and he says there are these secular Jews who really hate religion and want to stamp it out, worse than the Nazis. He says things like that.
I know, but
So
they're not going to accept Sharia to get rid of that.
No, okay, I know they're not saying anything like that, but all I can say is that there's Neturei Carter who are saying, we don't agree with Zionism, we're anti-Zionist, we should just live in the promised land as we found it, and not, turn it into an American colonial outpost. And Rabbi Mizrahi says things like, it's kind of backhanded to Iran, because he's saying, well, Jews in Iran, well, they managed to bring up believing Jewish children, but we in Israel, we can't even do that. What does this all mean? He says things like that. So I guess Jews are in a bit of a dilemma. Of course they're conscious that America protects them, and that America is not protecting out of the kindness of its heart, and that there are geopolitical reasons for doing so. So yes, I can understand that if you're a Jew living in Israel, you would be, well, you're not really sure, because whatever you say is just going to be wrong. And maybe that's why you don't say that much. I just don't think that if they were left to their own devices and America didn't help them with their defense and the Iron Dome and all that, they would have to come to an accommodation with Hamas and say, yes, we'll have to live under Sharia, just leave us alone now. But I think it's America saying, no, you've got to fight the Hamas, and we will help you, we will send you weapons, because if you stop, submitting to Sharia, we'll have to do it eventually, or maybe not that long after you do, the West would follow suit. Okay, that's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. Because that is how, people just, everybody's obsessed by Jews, right? And the other point I was trying to make is that, yes, of course, Jews, who live in Israel would be Zionist, and that there are these Christian Zionists, which is cooked up by Anglo-Israelism, which you've been studying under, because you've been investigating Herbert Armstrong, and he's into Anglo-Israelism and British Israelism. British Israelism was kind of, I think, a religion that was started by the British after they just acquired the Palestine Mandate, which was, I think, after the Crimean War. And once they administered it, they thought, well, we're going to have to be there, and obviously we'll have to, make all these British people think they're Jews, so they'll go over to Israel and defend it and man our colonial outpost, until they lost, the Palestine Mandate, and then it became Anglo-Israelism. And we have noticed that a few preachers like Herbert Armstrong and maybe others, Charles Taze Russell, contributed to the idea of Zionism, Christian Zionism, and they had a slightly different view from each other. But it is to create an interest amongst Christians in America in defending Israel, rather than, we're just there, it's a colonial outpost, we have to look after the oil, It has to be for a kind of religious, romantic reason. It can't just be, because we need the oil and we have to look after it, because that would be so banal. I mean, that's why religions are created, to incentivize people to, risk their lives and move countries.
Yeah, this need for mysticism needs to be bred out of the population. I think it's it's a genetic problem where just this need for irrationalism and the need for answers to questions that can't be answered. And, I think that, it gets to a point, okay, we can't know, so let's just leave it at that we don't know. And even if we are going to talk about it, let's not get into who God is, what God wants, what God's laws are. That's all just nonsense. It's all just made up stuff.
But the Jews have done so well with their Jewish philosophy, which is based on Jewish theology.
They were mass murdered all across the world. They couldn't keep their empire when they were solidly in Israel together because their religion divided them too much, because it was too strict, and they've been massacred everywhere, and now they're living in a hellhole over in Israel. I don't want to be like the Jews. They didn't really have a pleasant life, did they?
Well, I wouldn't like to be Jewish, but the point is that there are people attracted to the idea of being Jewish because they are still converts, because they think there's something a little romantic about being a Jew and being God's chosen people, and and the status probably attracts a few Gentiles after the scales fall off their eyes about Christianity, and I often ask these people, why don't you convert to Islam? Because it's easier. And I think that there's a huge element of snobbery about, an ex-Christian choosing Judaism rather than Islam. So there is a lot of snobbery.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, the status of being God's chosen people might incentivize some Jews to stay in their religion, because it sounds so romantic and so holy and all that, And maybe that's what, I think that must be the reason why, there'll still always be people who want that to lead that lifestyle, because they just love the idea so much.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom, hold on.
Okay. I mean, there are just so many conscious and stated and unstated reasons for people to choose one religion rather than the other. And for people who want to stay in Christianity, that there's also an element of snobbery, because obviously if we think, we've been lied to for generations, it no longer works anymore, it was all a story, that would lower the person in status. But then they can move on over to Islam, and once they get there, they'll get used to the idea and feel better about themselves, you know. But I think a lot of these motivations and obstacles are not acknowledged, not stated. Yeah, Evelyn, for you, I mean, I don't even, I don't even react anymore to what Vincent says about these things. I know, I'm just so heartened now that I don't react. I hear terrible things, and then I sort of think later, you know, maybe a normie would expect me to, you know, protest or something, and it's like, oh, but I forgot, you know.
Well, I don't know. I always react to nonsense when I hear it.
Oh, but you're back in the cube, and I hate myself. I'm there, and I look, I scroll down, and I feel such disgust and self-loathing, and I'm still there. And I think, I mean, obviously something is terribly broken about the West. That you know, I'm just bumping along at the bottom, talking to these people who just slime around and get nowhere and don't care.
Yeah, and don't care to be, you know, don't care to make sense or don't care to be productive, who don't care about anything. And, you know, it is really horrible and disheartening. And, you know, it's really sad that we have to, you know, move around with these people because, you know, that we're kind of reduced to advertising at this level. But, you know, the thing, you know what, but the thing is, Claire, you know, like whenever there's new social movements, it's always first picked up by degenerates and fucked up people and the underclass. Whenever like something new is coming in, it's always disaffected people that latch onto it, you know, because anyone who's okay with the status quo is not going to be looking for anything.
Yeah, I think the reason must be that, you know, the affluent, the high status people, that they just don't feel the cold. So, you know, it's like metaphorically they've got their fur coats and cashmere, you know, coats and whatever, and they're fine and they don't react because, you know, the cold doesn't affect them, but obviously it affects the people at the bottom and they go crazy and they, you know, freeze to death or whatever. So what you say would make sense at that level, that you know, it is the poor people who have to share their homes with immigrants who complain, you know, who would be the ones to complain most. While, you know, the people in their comfortable leafy suburbs and their gated communities, they wouldn't care.
Yeah, I know, it's pretty horrible, you know, it's pretty tragic, you know, but it's pretty tragic that, you know, and they don't even listen to us. I mean, we post for them and they're not even grateful for anything that's of any kind of value. If you look, all they want to talk about is trash. And whenever they do talk about anything of any value, they bring it down to such a low level that it's not even worth discussing. You know what I mean? That they just, you know, they can't talk about high things in a high level. You know, it has to all be trash and a joke. And like you say, it's their 80-20, 80% jokes, 20% content.
Yeah, and having to pander to them, and but sometimes they do try.
No, they don't. They never try. They're always useless. And, you know, it's just for the one or two that'll listen I mean, I post everything on Facebook. No one interacts. The occasional Hindu or right wing person says like a one word thing, but there's like no interaction. And it's just because it's not stupid trash. It's not idiotic, imbecilic nonsense. And, it's not low level stuff. Low level people don't want high end information. Like, okay, like I don't want to go read a book on computer coding. Okay. Like, I just don't want to because I don't have the education for that. And not so much that, it is not my interest, but maybe computer coding is a bad example because, it's kind of like a niche thing. But, I guess I'm trying to think if there's anything that's kind of even above my level. You know what I mean? I'm sure there is. There are topics. Well, epistemology and shit like that. I mean, that's just like so above me that, I don't even want to know about it. I mean, I would never click on like things like, that are about, the knowledge of knowledge and how do we know what we know. It's just not something, that level of expertise and that level of like that level of higher critical thinking and, using words I don't even understand.
I think you have to infuse a bit of the personal into your posts, and maybe talk about some ordinary things, so you sell yourself as a personality, and then they will come. But if it's just all your very esoteric interest, then it won't draw people in. And so I think the people that on Facebook I know who get the most engagement, would be women and talking about, their shattered dreams and who annoyed them and who they defriended, and and occasionally threatening people, like if you don't talk to me, I'm going to clean out my Facebook list, and it's all that sort of thing. So I mean, I haven't got time for that, but I'm just telling you who gets the most engagement. You see.
Yeah, but like we said, we're not really willing to like totally dilute our message for numbers either. And the esoteric content gets you far if it's nonsense. I mean, like that Swedish guy, he didn't like the area of Freemasonry that I'm interested in. I don't care about the names of God. I don't care about serpent heads and shit like that when it comes to Freemasonry. I care about actually like real, tangible political things they were involved in, like British Israelism, like pyramidology, like the cults, like Zionism. I care about that. And, but that's an area of Freemasonry that no one else is going to care about because it's not garbage. They want to hear, they want to know God, they believe in I don't care that Freemasons might believe in an androgynous God. I don't give a fuck. But this is what people care about.
Yeah, it was really annoying the way he kept accusing people who didn't agree with him, of being Luciferian. But it reminded me of the Cathars of the there was this heresy in the Middle Ages, and that they still call themselves Christians, but they didn't quite believe in the Trinity, and they were persecuted and killed just for that. They didn't have the right conception of Jesus, and I was trying to explain to him, it's like, well, actually, there's no point you calling me, Satan and all that, because God created Satan, and obviously Satan had a purpose, and the purpose of Satan would be to tempt people, because the whole purpose of life is to show that you know the difference between good and evil, and choose correctly, and then you get to heaven, and that has always been the bargain. But people don't seem to even understand this, and the idea is that you can't you can't have good without evil, in the same way you can't have up without down, and that if you go by the purpose of life for people who believe in God, this life is an examination hall, and we're supposed to, tell the difference after being told what the rules are. I mean,
Well, this is kind of just absurd thinking that comes from nowhere, and this is just made up
but it
shit.
kind of makes sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. What makes sense is to say, you know what? I don't really know where this universe came from, and I mean, maybe I'll talk about it on a scientific level and try to figure it out. But at the end, I'm going to say I don't know, and there's practical ways to set up a society, and okay, none of us want to be murdered, so why don't we outlaw that? None of us want to be stolen from, so why don't we outlaw that? And and then make practical humanistic laws that everyone probably is going to agree on, and protecting children from child abuse, and making sure that contracts are fair, and making sure people aren't price gouged and things like that.
So we agree about what the law is for. And well, I'm surprised. I mean,
No, I'm saying that I'm this idea that we're here to be tested is absurd. I mean, there's no reason to believe that. Like, why should I believe I'm here being tested for what? Why would I even believe that?
Well, okay. If you believe that, then you just go and get married and be a parent and do all the things that your parents did. And then you find in your 20s that you produced a child or two, and you just have to stay with them and look after them and stuff. And maybe you might be happier doing that than being so sexually adventurous. And also the government wants.
Well, I know, but I'm telling you, my answer to all this is futurism. Just change human nature. Just if we can't invent artificial wombs, invent humanized animal wombs, which is probably very likely. I mean, all you have to do is cross a pig with a human a few times and get an environment inside some kind of animal that will breed and produce children this way, and don't go back to the old way, because nobody wanted it that way, and they'll just rebel again, Claire. It'll all happen all over again.
Yeah, well, but then you'll suppress the rebellion.
Well, with my way, there would never be rebellion. There would be no rebellion.
Oh, you don't even know. You already say
Well,
you won't be around to see it come to fruition. So what's the point?
Yeah, but people, what do they have to rebel against? Claire, you're not going to see secular Quranism come to fruition either, but I'm not telling you to give up on it just because you're not going to see it in your lifetime. That's a cheap, shitty message that, well, you'll never see it in your lifetime, so don't even bother.
Well, I mean, there's perhaps a slight chance that it might happen.
There's more chance of artificial wombs being invented than secular Quranism taking over.
Okay, well, I mean, obviously we're gonna be arguing about it. Well, I just don't see why you think people would go for your idea in a big way. I mean, okay, there might be one or two. Well, I don't know.
Well, because look at Japan. Japan is not going to get its women to start breeding again. It's either artificial wombs or they just plummet. And if they're too stupid to if they're going to be too Puritan and they're not going to invent artificial wombs, they're never going to get those women to start breeding
They
again.
just have to shame sluts again.
Oh, please! Those women have too much education and too much power and too much money to become baby-making machines again.
Okay, well, the ones who are too old can't do it.
Okay, you cannot give women.
You just change the law.
Well, you cannot give women freedom and keep your birth rate up. It's not going to happen.
Oh, okay. I guess some of it might have to be removed.
Yeah, well, good luck with that, since the men over in Japan don't even want women anymore, because the women are all educated and have jobs. They're all incel celibates over there, and they want it that way. There's no like, man right movement to like redominate women over there.
Well, these things take leadership, so somebody at the top has to think, well, we better do that thing again. And we have to change the laws, and there has to be a public information campaign to prepare the public for it. And, of course it can be done if there is leadership at the top. It just needs somebody in a high place to give the word. That's all it needs in my case.
Yeah, but who in Japan in a democracy is going to give the word to this when it's going to be so unpopular?
But no, it doesn't. Okay, it doesn't need me to tell the Japanese. It just takes the Jews to say, well, all right, we'll live under Sharia, just leave us alone, and then Americans will eventually think, why don't we live under Sharia? And then the rest of the West, Canada, Europe, and then the non-West will cotton on. It'll be a kind of domino effect.
Affluent for you is such a heterosexual man. He says, in my experience is that a woman has a built-in desire to make babies. A little bit, yes, I know that women do want to have children, but number one, they don't want to have that many because it ruins their body. They have to carry it. It's tiring. They get fat and it warps their body and stretches out their stomach, and then their husband doesn't want to sleep with them anymore. And, having children is a really big burden, but also as women get education and they can get jobs, they start to realize that having children is going to hold them back. And, they're just, even if they want to have kids, they're going to stop having them. And also the fact that they're able to, now that they're able to see men and they have education and they have their own money and they can see straight men for what they are,
They can be easily persuaded to do things the other way.
They don't want to be.
Can be easily persuaded to do things the other way.
Not easily.
The media is very powerful. I mean, people believe in all kinds of stupid things that they didn't a year ago. It just needs the media to acknowledge that something has happened. I mean, yesterday we were talking about the no-high laws. People don't react to the no-high laws because they haven't received the signal from the media to tell them to take it seriously. But when it does come, they will take it seriously. They're just, people are like that. If they haven't been told that they're supposed to care about it, then they won't.
I know, but the media couldn't just get Japanese women to be like, oh, sure, we're going back into motherhood. We're giving up our jobs and education so we can go raise children. That's not going to happen, Claire. Even if the media said to do it, they wouldn't do it.
Or they'll do it for the next generation. I mean, it might be too late for certain women who are, a bit
okay, and who's
past
going
their
to stop
prime.
having all these children for the next generation when Japanese... What is the Japanese birth rate? Let's see what the Japanese birth rate
1.6.
1.6?
Yeah. So it's low.
Okay.
It should be 2 or more.
So where's this next generation being born?
Well, you can speed it up because of my brilliant plan to control the birth rate. So I'm saying the government should withhold the pill from women who have not yet completed their families, and you can say you haven't completed your family until you've had 3 children or 2 or whatever number you want it to be, and that is how you raise the birth rate. I mean, other forms of contraception will be available, but it's like the pill. No, you can't have that. You don't deserve that until you are a mother who has completed a family, or a licensed prostitute. These are the only women, allowed to have the pill, to go on the pill. There are all sorts of nudges and pushes that you can give to people.
Well, with that, Claire, I'm sorry, I am tired, and I do have to go.
All right.
But it was nice talking.
It was good to talk. as usual, take care. Speak to you
Bye.
soon. Bye. I am waiting for a signal from the media. Thank you for acknowledging what I've just said. Yes, Evelyn for You says, when women get close to the end of their fertility, their desire to make a baby grows. It's quite obvious, and I suggest normal. Yes, you only want to do the thing that you can no longer do. Well, before you would take it for granted. Anyway, thank you all for coming. I'm also a bit tired.